Hey, what's up, everybody? I'd like to welcome you to another Juice tutorial. And today what we're going to do, I've gotten a request from one of the subscribers, Robert Osborne, who asked me if I could make a quick GUI for this wavetable that we did yesterday. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up a quick frequency and amplitude slider and show you how to connect those things. Okay, so this is the code. We're not going to start off with a new project. We're just going to start off with the code that that I did for the wavetable sine wave. If you don't happen to have that, you can download it from the comments below the video for the tutorial. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do is I always like to show where in the API we always find these things. So let's just go into the classes. So we've already done a tutorial on creating a slider and creating a label and so on and so forth. So let's go to our slider class. Okay, there's our slider class. So this is the class that we're referencing from. Okay, and so we're just going to review a couple of those things. So we'll just start off by creating a slider. We'll call this slider 1. Actually, let's make them a little bit more descriptive. So one's going to be a frequency slider. And then we're going to create a amp slider. Okay. So let's go ahead and go into our main component and add these as children components of our main component. So add, make visible, freak slider, and do the same for our duration slider, amp slider. Okay. Let's just go ahead and start with the, I'm just going to divide this up, try to keep the code a little bit organized. So let's work on our freak slider here. So freak slider, set slider style. So we need to set the slider style. So we got slider style. We're going to make it a linear horizontal. Okay. Then we need to, so we've made it visible. So we're just going to set the bound. Oh, we need to set the values. So freak slider, set range. Okay. So we'll just make this real simple. We'll just go from 50 hertz to 500 hertz. Okay. Now we just need to go down to our resized, and we need to set our bounds for it. So let's do a so I'm going to do a little kind of space for our label. Okay, so constant I'll just call it label space equals, let's just set it at 100 for now. And then let's see, so we need freak slider dot set bounds. Okay, then we'll do label space, so it'll be 100 pixels in to give us room for our label. We'll go 20 pixels down, and then we'll go get width minus, let's just say get width minus 100, and then we'll go 20 down again. Okay, so let's just see if that's done. I don't know if we need to add it as a listener before it'll show. Okay, cool. So we have our slider there. Okay, so now we'll do this one slider at a time. So we need to make it where the frequency controls the where the frequency is controlled by our slider. Okay, so in order to do that, if we go back to our API, okay, just to review, so we have this within the slider class, we have a listener class. Okay, so because our content component needs to listen for any changes that we have in the states that of our slider. Okay, so in order to do that, okay, if we go here, so we need to add this as inheriting. So the main content component is going to inherit the capabilities of our slider listener class. Okay, so let me just indent this so we can be all good. Okay, that should be fine. Okay, so if you may recall, going into our listener class here, so what we need to do is we need to talk about when the slider value is changed, what do we want to happen? Okay, and the way that we do that is with this pure virtual function, slider value changed. Okay, so we're going to go into our public block here. Here we go, void slider value changed. Okay, and I think it's just a slider object. So slider. I like to put this here. Okay, and then, so what we're doing here is we're defining, okay, when we're, excuse me, when our slider is actually changed, when the value is changed, what do we want to happen? Okay, so if slider equals the frequency slider, okay, then we have our variable for frequency here. Okay, so we need frequency equals freq slider dot oh, this needs to be passed by reference, by the way, I think. Is that what's, yeah, pretty sure that's what this error is about. I'll just try to clear that out. So we got freq slider dot, so we need to get the values, so it's going to be get value. Okay, because we're getting the value from the slider, and that's what's going to enable that to become our new frequency. Okay, so now we need to add the freq slider as a listener for our content component. Okay, so I'm gonna add it before I make it visible. So freq slider add listener, and then we're adding it to this content component. Okay, because that is this app that's listening for any changes in our slider. Okay, so okay, cool. So let's see here. Okay, let's just try it out and see where we're at right now. Oh, yes, I need to mark this override. Glad you reminded me. Okay, let's just see if it changes the value. Okay, it's not changing the value yet. Okay, so let's just see if this is actually changing the value first of all. So we're just going to see if the frequency is updating from the slider. Okay, let's just look at our console, see what we got. Okay, so our frequency is updating. Okay, cool. So we have an issue here. Okay, which is that, okay, so prepare to play is happening once when the app is instantiated. So what's happening here is that the frequency is getting updated once, but we don't have anything within our audio callback that lets us know that our frequency is updating. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another function. Okay, we'll call this void. I'll just call this update frequency. Doing this a little bit quicker because I've encountered these problems, but I just want to go through the steps just so you can see kind of what I'm doing. Okay, so here we have this little bit here, increment equals frequency times wavetable size divided by sample rate. Okay, so if I move this up to update frequency, it won't know what sample rate is. So I need, because sample rate is a variable only within the scope of prepare to play. So what I need to do is I need to make sample rate a global variable. Okay, so I'll just make this double current sample rate. Okay, then we'll go back to here. So current sample rate equals our sample rate. Okay, just so we can pass that into our function. All right, then I'll change this to current sample rate. And I will move this up to my update frequency. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to have this update frequency within our audio callback, which is here, because if we update the frequency, we need it to reflect those changes within the audio callback, which will be constantly listening for any sort of changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this phase equals f mod when we're moving our phase. I'm going to move that up here to update frequency. Okay, and now I'm just going to say update frequency. Okay, now this should be correct. Okay, cool. So our frequency is now working. Okay, but it didn't instantiate at the correct frequency. Okay, that's because what happens is it instantiates at 440 hertz, but then it doesn't reflect what the value is on the slider. Okay, so let's just go ahead and change that. So we'll say frequency equals whatever the frequency of our slider is. Slider.getValue. Okay, and then what we can actually do within our constructor function here is we can set an initial value. Okay, so let's just say freq slider set value. Okay, and we'll just set the value at, let's just say 200 hertz, right? Okay, so let's just see if that works. Great. Okay, so it instantiated at 200 hertz. I can move this up and I can move it down. Okay, so now let's go ahead and make a label just so that we know that this is frequency. Okay, so we'll just go down to our private block here. We'll make a label from the label class. If you remember the tutorial on label and slider class. So we'll call this freq label. And I might as well make an amp label as well. So then we go into our constructor. Okay, we will go freak label dot, what do we need? So let's go into our API here. Label. Okay. So we just need this first one here, set text. Okay, don't need it to notify us if the text has changed or anything like that. So freak label dot set text. We'll just set that to be frequency, and don't send notification. Okay, this is all stuff we've gone through in the past here, so if you, just in case you're wondering where I'm getting this from. So then we've got to attach it to the component itself. Label dot attach to component. Okay, and then we're just attaching this to our freak slider. Okay, we're just going to put it on the left, so we're just going to say this is true, and let's just see after I correct this if this actually works. Okay, so now we've got our frequency slider there. Okay, so there's another one. So we could label this hertz. Let's see if we can remember the function for that. Set text. Set text value suffix. Sounds right. And then we can call this hertz. Okay. So let's see if it's done that. Great. So now we have that labeled in hertz. Okay. So now let's just repeat this process for our amp slider. Okay. So we got amp slider dot set slider style, slider style, same thing, linear, horizontal. I find it's good just to type this out rather than cutting and pasting. So amp slider set range. Okay, we'll just set this from 0 to our maximum, which will be 1.0. Okay, that reminds me. Let me just because I want to make sure that I've got everything correctly here. So if these are doubles or floats, I just have them marked down appropriately. Okay, let's do amp slider dot set text value suffix. What should I call what? Oh, I don't know if it's not decibels. I'm gonna skip this. Because it's not decibels. I'm not sure what to exactly label that. So we need to add it as a listener. Slider, add listener, and then we're using our main content component. So this is what needs to listen. It needs to listen for, and then freak slider. I'm messing this up. This needs to be amp slider. So amp slider dot set value. So we'll just set an initial value, and then I'll just put that at 0 for now. And then we need to add it. We've already done that. Okay. Then we got amp label, set the text so we know what it is. We'll just call this amplitude. Don't send notification. Okay, just need to attach it to the component, amp label attach to component. So we're just going to attach it to the amp slider. It's going to be on the left. Okay, so now we just need to go up to our slider value changed and just make sure that it updates the value. So we could put an else if here, else if slider equals ampersand amp slider. Then amplitude equals amp slider. So we're just going to get the value of our amplitude slider. Okay, so we got that. We can set our amplitude now to amp slider get value. And I think we should be fine here. Okay. Oh, I haven't actually drawn it to the screen yet. So let's go amp slider. So we need to set the bounds. So we'll start with label space. We'll just set this at 50, down 50, and then we'll just do get width. Forgot how to spell get width there for a second. And then 50. Okay, does that look right to you? No, I screwed something up. Label space. Live coding is so hard. Okay, so here we are. Amplitude 0. Great. So you hear a little bit of artifacting there. That's something that I'm not going to fix at the moment, but we could, if we wanted to really, make this more robust, we could go in there and create like a ramp, kind of like line in Max MSP. So it goes a little bit slowly, so it ramps a little bit more slowly from one value to the other, but maybe that's something for another time. So great. Okay, so that's how you do a couple sliders and attach them to the values for frequency and amplitude. So I hope that helped you out. And if you have any questions, just drop me a line, and I will see you next time.